This movie tells a story about the Foo Fighters who head to a sprawling mansion in the Hollywood Hills to record their 10th album, seeking a dramatic change in the sound that has defined their career. What they find instead is a haunted house plagued by demons that proceed to possess Dave Grohl, inspiring him to write a never-ending song that will unleash hell on earth if it's ever completed. The result is all sorts of gory comedic mischief as Dave slowly loses his grip on reality, ultimately hunting down the members of his band and killing them in the most obscene ways possible. First of all, this movie is a horror comedy that is unfortunately not that scary nor properly funny. It's one that delivers neither the necessary horror or comedy of its fan service inspiration. It's basically a decent comedy sketch that is stretched to nearly 2 hours. It starts quite well, but it's getting flat down the line. The movie really lacks originality. The script is a bare-bones pastiche of horror forerunners from the past like The Evil Dead, The Exorcist, The Shining, and the Amityville Horror. There are elements from those inspirations for the movie to play with, but their utility feels more aimed at giving plenty of visual options and less about creating a cohesive story. The movie could have used a more focused approach in its execution to get the most out of its silly and promising premise. There are a couple of clever ideas brewing beneath the surface. Unfortunately, the movie is so beholden to the horror films in the past that they refuse to engage with those very elements that might prove original or noteworthy. The movie is founded on the assumption that these real-life rock musicians are pretty hilarious and adorable. They are indeed having so much fun, and in this playfulness, there's no denying the sense of camaraderie on display. Unfortunately, the charm of that can only go so far. None of these guys are seasoned actors, and that inexperience is evident in nearly every scene. Dave himself is at least reasonably relaxed, but there's an awful lot of terrible wooden acting from everyone else. Most of the moments that seem like they're meant to be funny are either too poorly delivered to land right or too poorly written to salvage. There are elements of supernatural at play here. Unfortunately, they suffer from shoddy visual effects. The movie opts for a digital crispness that undercuts any sort of tension, making the proceedings look like a particularly violent TV movie. The gruesome deaths don't skim on gore and will make you wish the movie had spent more time celebrating its slasher roots, which feel the most in harmony with the band's skill set as actors. Unsteady pacing is a recurring problem throughout the movie, with Dave's possession being another element that gets teased out for too long. Despite a relatively brisk 108-minute runtime, the movie suffers from a protracted finale that draws out the less interesting aspects of the villain's grand plan at the expense of ending the film at its most bombastic. Some of the climax would have clicked better if the film had bothered exploring the previous tragedy and characters more, while also cutting down some of the more repetitive recording aspects from the Foo Fighters. The movie also gets tangled up on endings, with the plot dragging out far too long thanks to multiple endings. Overall, this horror comedy doesn't have enough scare or comedy, but it has decent gore. The story is pretty much forgettable. We do not recommend to watch this in theaters. Better wait on your streaming service.